welcome to the Marina Skua Podcast. My name's Marina, I'm a knitwear designer and yarn dyer, and I also do a lot of various textiles crafts, some of which I'll be talking about today. It's been a little while since I filmed. I had to take some time off for some health stuff, but all good and back now, and really excited to be getting back into things. So I have quite a few things to show you in various stages. And so I think I'll start off with things I finished, then go on to things I'm working on, and then towards the end I'll take you for a quick look around the garden because there's loads of stuff in bloom and it's mostly looking really pretty. So first up is what I'm wearing. This is the Mistland cardigan. And you can see we've got nice lacy sleeves here. It's a fairly simple lace pattern, 16 stitches, and a boxy body, and just a simple drop shoulder. And I published this pattern quite a few years ago, and the original sample I don't have anymore because it was in a yarn that I really didn't like the colour, and so I decided to make this version in hand spun yarn. So this is naturally coloured grey, so it's undyed. I still have various bits and pieces of yarn left. I haven't measured these, but I'm guessing it's going to be probably about 120 grams, so there's definitely enough to do something with there. And so that's quite nice. Spinning this yarn took a very long time, a couple of years ago, and so it's nice that I get to use it for more than one project. And it'll probably be that I combine it with some other leftover hand spun for something or other at some point in the future. And so I really like wearing this one. I tend not to keep my knits for special. Like, I wear the things I create for my wardrobe frequently and for most things I do in my life. Occasionally, if I know I'm going to be doing some gardening and I'm going to be in amongst the roses or brambles or something, I will probably try to change out of a lightweight hand knit sweater. But generally, I wear the things I make a lot, and I wear them hard. But this one, because it's got such a lot of soft, fluffy fibre, and I can tell that it's already started pilling a little bit. I finished this a couple of months ago, and so I think I am going to be keeping this for slightly nicer things. So I'm not just going to have it as an everyday wear around the house one, but I will be wearing it for nicer things when I want it to be a bit pretty. And I think that's fine because, yeah. So it's got, you can see some natural heatheriness to the yarn. It's quite a few different fibres. I don't think I remember all of them. There is blue-faced Leicester. There's some Shetland Teeswater. There's a tiny bit of Swartless. Then there is a fair bit of alpaca, quite a bit of Angora, which is where most of the fuzz comes from. And I often use some mohair in my hand-blended yarns, but this one I don't believe has any. But it's just the most gorgeous fuzzy blend, and it's truly soft. And again, I don't tend to prize softness above all other qualities in yarn, just because softness generally means it's less durable and is less likely to withstand all the things I do to my clothes. But a little bit of luxurious coziness is nice sometimes. So I really love this one, and I'm really pleased to have it finished and in my wardrobe because it got put on the back burner a few times for various reasons, having to prioritise other projects. such is the way when you end up with sudden deadline projects for magazines and stuff. Then another thing I have finished is a piece of weaving. I say finished, I probably need to do something about the tassel situation. This is pure alpaca, and it's a scarf, but it's a sampler. And so quite a while ago, when was it? It was back in September, so not a year ago. I got at least third-hand floor loom. I believe it's a 70s one. It's a dryad folding loom. And this was my first project on it, because previously I've done a fair bit of weaving on rigid heddle looms, but they are much easier to set up and operate. And so this was my project to kind of get the hang of the floor loom, the different way of warping, and the different things I can achieve with it, because I can suddenly do twill. I've got 4 shafts, which is more than is sensible to try and manage on a rigid heddle loom. And that just means that I can do quite a few fun projects. So I think, I'm trying to work out which end I started at. I think I started this end. Yeah. And so this end is less dense, because I realised that after I'd started weaving, I'd set up my warp a bit too loosely spaced. And so it was meaning that I couldn't weave comfortably, and I was having to weave in a way that was being very careful to ensure that my warp and weft were spaced evenly. Later on, I kind of gave up on that, and I just wove a bit more densely. So this end is a bit denser. It meant that it was much more fun to weave. And luckily, because it's alpaca, it's got loads of drape anyway. So we can do a double wrap, which was what I was hoping for. And so it's all just natural colours of alpaca. The warp is a single colour, and then I just regularly changed weft colours, and each time I changed colours I started doing a different pattern. All variants on twill, 2/2 twill. And it was just quite fun to experiment and see what different things I could do with the same threading and setup and everything. So I ended up not super enjoying this for most of the time I was weaving it, just because, as I said, the set, so having the warp space too wide. I now know if that happens again in the future, I should just unpick what I've done, re-slate the reed, so re-space the warp, and then start again. But it's not actually as much work as I thought it would be to do that, and I think it's worth doing for the sake of getting what you want out of the finished product, which is something that I'm not good at. I don't like having to start again on things. And in this case, because I was changing patterns so frequently, and each time, every 5 to 10 minutes, I was having to make a decision about which yarn I was going to use next and what treadling pattern I was going to do. It ended up just feeling like a bit of a chore. And so I now know, I think it's much nicer to do what I've mostly done previously when weaving, which is to just weave lots of the same thing on the same warp, so you can kind of get into a rhythm and a bit of a flow state and just enjoy it, rather than constantly having to re-engage. And I think that's me. I like that with my knitting as well, something that I can concentrate on for a long time, but without having to pay attention to every single thing I'm doing. So this, I do need to trim the tassels, but because it's going to be a long time until I want to wear this, because it's dense and fluffy and warm in alpaca and it's a beautiful summer outside. So I will make a decision about what I do with the tassels closer to the autumn when I'm likely to wear this. And I'm really excited to do more weaving projects. I've got some yarn that I am spinning for a weaving project. I will quickly show you what I'm doing there. I think I showed this last time. So this is going to be the weft yarn. This is hand spun that I spun previously. And then in here is the fibre I've dyed up specifically for the warp. So I've done not a whole bobbin, but most of a bobbin. Usually I like to pack as much as I can onto a bobbin, but I lost the end of this one. The fibre broke as I was spinning it, and I just can't find the end, and it's driving me slightly mad. And so I thought, rather than doing something weird and trying to rejoin and start again on here, I'd just take it off and start a new bobbin, ply them together, and then start again afresh. And I'll just have a slightly smaller skein than I would have liked of the first bit of this yarn, but that's fine. So this is my skewer blend, which is really, really fun to spin. And then this is feather blend, which is all of my wool blends are blended up for me at Wing and Woolwork. And so I have 4 blends. All of them are British breeds, wool from British farms. And I've kind of designed each of them to have different qualities. So skewer blend is the first one I did. And that one is just super fun to spin. I just combined all of the characteristics I really like in a spinning fibre. So it's got a really nice balance of grippiness and grippiness without being draggy. And then it's got a really interesting natural range of colours in it. And it's got a little bit of wild texture. It's sort of quite rustic. Feather blend is much softer. It's mostly long wools, so it's Wensleydale, Teeswater, Blueface Leicester and Shetland. And the idea for this one was to create something that would really enjoy being spun fine. And so it's got those long fibres which give it a little bit more strength, but at the same time the Shetland and the Blueface Leicester mean it's really nice and silky soft. So this one is, I'm really enjoying spinning it, and with Tour de Fleece happening at the moment, I'm not trying to participate because I don't like challenges of any kind, like not just things we find difficult in life, but deliberate challenges where you try to make yourself do, like I once did a thing that was draw a thing every day in January, and there was a Facebook group and they would give a prompt and you would draw that thing or your interpretation of it. And in a way it was nice because it made me draw more, and I do tend to resist drawing because I'm not as good as I'd like to be at drawing, and practicing something when you feel like you're not good at it, at least to me, isn't that fun. But just having the challenge there telling me I had to do drawing every day made me resent and hate it. I don't know if it's just me who has that little cussed bit of brain, but if I have Tour de Fleece telling me I have to spin today, I will not want to spin. Instead, I am using Tour de Fleece as a thing that means there's loads more spinning on my Instagram feed, and that's really nice because that is inspiring to me, and that is encouraging me to spin more frequently than I would otherwise, but it's still not every day. And so yeah, I'm getting on with that. It's going to take me a while. There's 300 grams of fibre to be spun, and it's all very much the same thing. So yeah, I'm spinning very fine, so it does take a while. Let's stick with spinning fibre for now. So it's been a little while since I've done a shop update on the website. I'm just going to show you some things I've got in the shop. At the moment, there is a little bit of dyed fibre, not loads. So this one is on Skua Blend. So it's one of the ones that I kind of describe as palindromic, where you've got things going on that are similar on each end and then it's different in the middle. So this is the same blend as this yarn here, so it's super fun to spin and quite beginner friendly. This one is called Black-Throated Mango, which is a kind of hummingbird. They're mostly sort of tealy green and then have a little flash of magenta on them, and they're very pretty. Then this one is Solace Blend, which is very bouncy and crimpy and quite matte. It's got quite a matte finish to it, but it gives a yarn that has lots of body, which is really nice. And this one's called Rhodolite, after the gemstone. And so this is a blend of Cotswold, Dorset Horn, and Shropshire. So the Cotswold and Dorset Horn are white, and then the Shropshire is a mid-grey, which gives an overall grey base there. And then this one is Feather Blend, which is the same as the green fibre I'm spinning there. We've got some of that same green in this section here, but this one's a really fun gradient. So we go from kind of brown, like a really warm, almost pinky brown, through yellow and green, and then through to some bits of blue at the end. So earth and sky. And yeah, so I've got a few of those in the shop at the moment. And then I've been dyeing up some more. These ones aren't available yet. So this weekend I'm doing a pop-up shop at Wool on the X down in Exeter in Devon. So if you are local and you happen to see this in time, please do come and stop by. And so I've got 6 colours here and a couple more on the way. These ones are as yet unnamed. I need to sit down and do naming and labelling, and it's always a bit of a stumbling block for me because I have fun with names, but they take longer than I'd like them to. So first up, if we do Skua Blend, 2 very moody ones. This one, it has lots going on, but the overall effect is very muted, which I think is really fun. So you've got bits of like bluey indigo and some russety red, and then some greeny yellow, and some more purpley bits, and some greeny bits in there. If you like subtle complexity, which I really enjoy, that's a good one. And then this one, similar in that we've got some like reddy purpley shades in there, but we've also got some slightly stronger themes of greeny blue in the middle. So yes, those ones are going to be difficult ones to name. I find ones that don't have a very like clear colour story, that are a bit more moody and complex, I find those ones difficult to name. Then Solace Blend. We've got these 2. I decided to compensate for the really moody Skua ones with some slightly more cheerful colours. So we've got this amazing, cheerful, flamey, mostly red and orange. There's some of the natural grey showing through there, and some yellowy bits. In some places the red is slightly pinky. This one reminds me of cocktails, like a rum punch or something. Can't do rum punch as a name because I did that about 6 years ago and I can't use the same name twice. Then this one has lots more of the natural grey showing through, and this kind of zingy citrusy yellow along with a slightly muted, almost tealy green, which I really like. And then 2 on Feather Blend, which is the nice, sleek, lustrous one. So this one is mostly shades of like magenta-y purple. There are some bits of sort of slaty blue in there as well. And yeah, this one has a lot of the natural colour of the fibre showing through. So the natural colour is creamy white with streaks of brown going through it. So the Blueface Leicester, Teeswater and Wensleydale are all white, the natural lightest colour they come in, so some of them are slightly more creamy. And then the Shetland is a Morit Shetland, which gives that nice sort of cinnamony brown colour going through it and gives it a bit of warmth and depth, which I love. And then finally is my absolute favourite one. I'm obsessed with this. I shared a photo of it on Instagram the other day and lots of people were asking for it immediately. This one, I don't know what I love about it. Just like these peachy bits, and I'm a bit picky about like lavendery purpley colours. But just like the way the blue goes into these kind of lilac-y, lavendery bits, and then I love this peach. And then there are some kind of more browny bits where some of those colours meet. So this one, I don't know, it just somehow, it feels quite like vaporwavy, but in a more muted, less like neon way than you often see with that aesthetic. So yes, I love this one. It's my favourite. Not that we pick favourites, but I love it. So those ones are going to be available at Wool on the X, and then that's this Saturday, so the 12th of July. And then whatever doesn't sell there will be going online. As usual, my patrons will have early access, so patrons get access to new shop updates 24 hours before everyone else. It just kind of helps manage the number of people on my website for shop updates. And then anything that isn't scooped up by patrons immediately will go out to newsletter subscribers next. And so it's always worth joining the newsletter, even if you aren't able to support on Patreon, because that is the best place to hear about when we've got new things. While we're still on things in the shop, I can't remember if I showed you the big buttons. So I have been waxing lyrical about Tom Dyson for quite a while. He makes beautiful, beautiful wooden buttons. So I've been stocking his laburnum and yew buttons for a while. I've used both on various projects of mine. And I now also have, so these are the 15mm ones, and then these ones are 20mm ones, which are quite good for slightly chunkier knits. So those have been on the shop for a while. I love them. They are glorious. And they smell nice too. I don't know if it's the oil he uses on the wood, but it's always nice to open a package from Tom. And then in addition to those, these ones are slightly finicky to show. May have to discuss a slight redesign of the cards on these, because there's one set. So I asked Tom to make me some stitch markers. So again, in the same woods, we've got yew and laburnum, and they're just very simple. They're a similar sort of shape to the buttons, but much smaller and a bit thinner. So they're really lightweight, and they're on the little light bulb shape locking markers, like the little safety pins. So you can use them as locking markers, or you can use them as ones that go on your needle, unless you're using massive needles, because for really big needles they won't fit. But yeah, they're very pretty, and so those ones are on the shop as well. And then I think it's just the flax to show you. Oh no, wait. Another project I've been working on that I can't show you, which is annoying. But I'm going to show you the yarn because I'm having lots of fun with it, even though it's incredibly seasonally inappropriate. Quite a while ago, Bahram U, who are a British yarn company, they got in contact with me. They disappeared for quite a while. I'm not sure what happened, but now they have reappeared with lots of nice new yarn. They have lots of ranges that are 100% British wool, which is really what I focus on. Like whenever possible, I try to use British wool that was grown on the British Isles. I specify because of Falklands wool, like I want things that are local, not just like national, if that makes sense. And so they sent me some yarn to try out, and so I surprisingly fell in love with a really, really chunky yarn, and so submitted it for a design for a magazine, which was accepted, a publication. And so I'm working on that now. Because of the way publications work, I can't show you what I'm knitting, but I can show you the yarn. So this is Natural Meadow, which is a chunky weight. It's a single. It's a bit like a Lopi yarn. It's got some twist to it, but not loads of twist. It's quite fuzzy. It's like a little bit rustic, and it's quite tweedy. It's obviously dyed in the wool, so there are different colours blended together. This is actually the colour I'm knitting with. This is what I used for swatching. This one is Sea Holly, and this one I believe is called Marigold. I don't think it's a very marigoldy colour. It's a lovely kind of yellowy ochre. But they are both really pretty, and so they recommend 8mm needles, but I'm knitting with it on 6mm. Which is is not as dense as you'd expect it to, being 2 big needle sizes less than recommended. But it's giving a fabric that I think will just have a little bit more structure than if I were using a bigger needle. And I'm really enjoying that. So that is why I have slightly less knitting stuff to show you. And that is also what is preventing me from working on this, which I'm going to show you anyway, because I don't know if I've ever shown this project on the podcast. I might have done, but if I have, it was a very long time ago, because this has been on my needles for a really long time and keeps getting sidelined. It's not on needles at the moment, so I don't have to worry about getting balls of yarn everywhere. This is going to be a cardigan. So I've finished the body, and I'm just at the point where getting sleeves back on the needles, so the sleeves are on hold, getting those back on the needle will require a little bit more maths, and I've not yet had the time to sit down and do those maths. So we've got, it's a saddle shoulder. So on top of the shoulder, there is a section of moss stitch here, running down there. And so for a while, the shoulder increases run along parallel with the moss stitch section. And then for the saddly bit where we start sort of creating sleeve body division, the increases sort of pair off. And so this section of moss stitch will continue down the top of the sleeve, and it's going to do kind of pinchy, swoopy stuff. Which, well, I've got a swatch here. I don't know how well you'll be able to see this. Probably not very well. And this was just a kind of proof of concept. So I'll be using increases and decreases to narrow the moss stitch section, and then cables to cross over the outside bits, and then reversed increases and decreases to get that section to get wider again and fill up with moss stitch again. It'll be fun. There is a video on my Patreon, which I will try to remember to link to directly here, where I came up with this design, and so it's talking through what I'm hoping to do, doing some sketches, going through charting out what I'm hoping to do in Stitch Mastery, which is the charting software I use, and then doing that swatch to see how it was all going to turn out. And so I did all of that before casting on the project. And so if you want a bit of insight into the more kind of nitty-gritty of knitwear design, that might be of interest. So yes, enjoying this one, currently on hold because of having to prioritize other projects for my knitting and my designer brain. And yes, oh, I actually didn't talk about the yarn at all for that one. That's terrible of me. Nope, that one's still attached. Here we go. So this is Roma Finalgarn. The colour is, where do I find it? There we go. 4120. It is a very nice deep red with kind of, I think there's probably, I can't remember if this is one of the ones that has some natural black wool blended in with it, but it gives it this lovely depth. So it's quite a warm red, but it is very deep. So it's not quite a burgundy, but it's a really, really lovely colour. And this yarn was a present from my lovely friend Diana quite a while ago. I think she saw the colour and thought of me. So yes, I'm really looking forward to getting to work on that. If for nothing else than the fact that it will be more seasonally appropriate than my current knitting. And then, final thing I will show you of making stuff before we head out to the garden. This is just last night's work, once I was bored of knitting. I'm doing some more flax processing. So a few videos ago, I made a video about how I process toe flax, or flax toe, which is kind of the waste fibre from flax processing. The way I'm processing this, so excuse the rustling here, I've got, you can't see that very well. Yeah, you can kind of see there. So this is actually a bundle of flax stems. They're bent in the middle down here. So this is the full length of the flax stem. I'll take some of it out, but it does make a hideous mess. So this is the flax. This is from Flaxland up in the Cotswolds. And so usually the way you would do things when you have proper tools and stuff would be to process your line flax, which is the really nice long fibres, which are these ones. I keep them tied up just so that they don't get tangled and start shedding themselves everywhere. And it is very much like hair. So this is pretty much the full length of the flax fibres. So each strand of those has come from a single stalk of flax. So usually you would focus on processing this and then have a load of tangly stuff left over, and then you do whatever you're going to do with that if you have time to do anything with it. But with this, previously I was processing flax tow that I was given in a big bag, where when I went to visit Flaxland, they just kind of gave me a bag and said, do with this what you will, we have plenty and it's a lot of time to process, so have fun. So previously I was just working with kind of pre-made flax tow, whereas this I'm kind of making tow as I go along, but I'm also processing that. So I'm processing that into the shorter lengths just as I go. So each of these gets subsequently shorter until you've got these fibres that are probably like average wool fleece length. So I'm trying to work through all of that bundle to add to my existing stash of processed flax, which has been a long process anyway. It's a time-consuming thing, but there is something just so satisfying about it. When I'm in the mood to get things set up so I can hopefully not make too much hideous mess, and I can set aside some time that feels like it's worth getting everything set up, it's really enjoyable to just sit and do some flax processing. So I did yesterday evening. There are more of like these little bits of straw all over the living room than I would have liked. I did set things up so that I minimised escapage, but I didn't catch all of it, so I need to go around with the hoover. And with the weather being super nice, I'm hoping once there's a bit of shade in the garden that I might get out and do a bit of flax processing out there, because there you have to be much less careful about where the mess goes, because it is a really messy process, which I think is kind of why it's so fun. But yes, crafty ramblings complete, I believe. I'll take you out to the garden and we can see what's going on there. So, late afternoon in the front garden. First up, that tree is a plum tree. I was considering planting it there, so it's been there for a little while just to see how I feel about it. I think I'm probably not going to plant it there, but I might put a different tree there. Got to see how I feel about it. So this little bit here, you can see there's sort of a weird square here. That is where I pulled up what was a very small patio, which is where the table and chair were. And the idea is that I've added some extra compost, and this side of it will hopefully be lawn, and then the other side will be border to kind of join up with the existing border. I have put down some grass seed, but with the weather as it is at the moment, I'm not watering it nearly as much as I should, because we don't have any there's no hose or anything out here, so everything has to be brought out in watering cans from inside the house. And I'm not going to do that multiple times a day to try and get lawn established here. So I'm mostly just going to try and reseed once the weather picks up. But in the meantime, it's really interesting to see what's self-seeding in here. That's lamb's quarters, we can get rid of that. I'm taking out the obvious weeds. Evening primrose, I think these are datura. Usually I would count grass as weeds in borders, but we want grass here anyway, so I'm fine with that. I've got a few field poppies. This, I'm pretty sure it's fennel, but it doesn't smell of fennel at all, so I don't know what's going on there. We do have bronze fennel over there, so it's quite feasible for it to have self-seeded there, but don't know why it doesn't smell. But yes, so that is the one bit that I'd like to grow in. And then this bit here is looking, I think, quite pretty. So we've got some daylilies there, black hollyhock, which was brought from the old house, a self-seeded hollyhock over here, which is not a colour I would have planted there. My sweet peas aren't doing as well as I'd like. They seem to be the only victim of what has apparently been quite a bad year for aphids. I've heard lots of other people have been having a really bad time with them, but other than the sweet peas, we seem to be doing fine. This is sorrel, and it's definitely in the wrong place in the border. It's quite obstructive in that it's tall and dense and prevents you from seeing things like this rose behind it from a lot of angles. But I do really like it, just as height and interest. I think I will move it to somewhere sort of closer to the middle of the border, because it is a perennial, and also good for salad. And then the broom has done really, really well this year, and you can see the flowers are just going over, and these will all be seeds. And then we've got some self-sown goldenrod down there, which is nice. I think the goldenrod has just introduced itself from somewhere. This is sanguisorba, which I love. It's quite sort of subtle, but really nice for texture, and goes very nicely with the cottonus back there. The fennel is just beginning to flower. Self-seeded evening primrose. This phlox has flowered before any of the other ones. We have quite a few in this garden, but that's the only one that's flowered so far. Cottonus is doing very nicely, but seems to be growing outwards at the bottom rather than up, which is frustrating. Then helenium, Nymphophea, which has just gone over. These roses were here already. So most of the stuff in this garden I've planted myself. This rose was here already, and of the many roses that were here, this one is doing the best. It's a beautiful yellow one, which has amazing scent. And this year I'm trying really hard to feed them up and get them growing nicely, because they had all been chopped down to the ground. And so we didn't even know they were there the first year we were here. And then this one is nice. This one has usually quite a few little red flowers. This one hasn't flowered so far this year. This bit's a bit neglected down here. This is a goat willow that I really should take out because it's not meant to be there. Mahonia, usually I prune it after flowering, but this year I've let the berries grow, which is quite nice. And then the white border down at the bottom, it's quite shady down here. Hydrangea Incredible is living up to its name at the moment. The feverfew, it's a really pretty double feverfew. And I need to encourage it to self-sow further over there where things are a bit empty, because that's the most recent bit I've expanded. This bit at the bottom here, a lot of this grass needs to come up to make this border a bit deeper. Got this foxglove being hilarious, which I really should cut back now, but it's providing me with some entertainment. So once the last flowers go, I'll cut that back there and see if it behaves itself a bit better. In terrible need of weeding down here. It's a lot. I'm trying to encourage the ferns to sort of take over, because this is the shadiest part of this garden. But yeah, it's in need of some love. Hypericum is still looking nice, but past its best. And then this helenium is doing so much better than the one over there, even though I planted them at the same time. But I love it. It's so pretty. Then another black hollyhock here. These ones I do gather the fallen flowers from to use as dye plants, even though I haven't done any plant dyeing for quite a while. Another daylily hiding under there. This rose we planted in the spring. It's one my aunt gave me. It's got lots of buds on it, and mostly it seems to be doing fine, but the flowers are going a bit droopy, and I don't know if that's just because It hasn't got its roots in really nicely yet, and so it's been struggling with how dry it is. But also droopy blooms is something that seems to be quite common in David Austin roses. So we shall see. And then this bit, more daylily. Little hydrangea hidden under there, which is being slightly overtaken by these anemones. Look at that, that's just growing right up in the middle there. I'm going to pull that out now. Naughty thing. That hydrangea has been moved lots of times. It's never been in quite the right place, and I need to give it some more water. And then this buddleia has always been quite nice, and it's usually stayed just over my height, but now we're sort of at probably 8-9 foot tall. So you can see here where I cut it back to last year with those woody bits. So I think I'm going to have to cut it right back in the spring to probably sort of knee height. But yeah, the garden's doing nice things at the moment. It's not particularly exuberant, and it has been slightly neglected while I've not been well. But I am really enjoying it nonetheless. The daylilies are providing a lot of value at the moment. And I'm just looking forward to getting this bit sorted. And yeah. So I hope you've enjoyed that little look at what we've got going on in the front garden. And big news this year is we are finally going to be sorting out at least some of the back garden. I haven't really shown you what's back there because it's mostly a bit horrifying. We have a big outbuilding there that is imminently going to be demolished because it's mostly asbestos and it's not fit for purpose. So that will be demolished and then replaced with an actual studio for me, which is very exciting. It means I can move out of a spare bedroom and hopefully finally have enough space for my work. But, you know, I will expand to fit the space given me. So I imagine I'll feel like I've grown out of it pretty much immediately. But at least it'll be space that's separate to the house. And once that is done, then we can start doing some major landscaping work, which I imagine is going to take years because that bit we'll be doing mostly ourselves. And I don't know exactly what I want to do with it yet. I need to see what the lay of the land is once the building work is at least decently underway before making proper plans. So, yes. Very excited about that. And yeah, I think that's all I really have to share with you this time. It's been lovely catching up a little bit. I hope you've enjoyed this quick look at what I've been up to. And yes, I will hopefully be back soon. In the meantime, if you want to catch up with what I'm doing, as I mentioned, the newsletter is a great place to hear about when I've got new products out or shop updates or goings on. And on Patreon, it helps support this podcast. You also get loads of benefits like discounts on my products and patterns. You get exclusive videos and a monthly Zoom meetup if you're in a tier that offers it. And there's a lovely Discord group and stuff as well. So thank you very much for joining me, and I will catch you next time. Bye-bye. Bye.